It's time for another 2020 college football team schedule preview. Up today, another SEC team, another SEC East team, South Carolina Gamecocks. Hey, good morning, and it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Also, in addition to that as well, subscribe to this channel. If you're not already, I post college football videos almost every single day of the year, and sometimes they're even watchable. I don't know about this one, I'm going to be honest. I'm leaning towards not watchable. Let me know down below. Anyway, we've done a whole series of these videos, and we got a whole lot more still yet to come. I'll put a playlist up here somewhere if I can remember that will take you to a playlist that has all the teams on it that we've done already. These are not prediction videos. I'm not trying to determine a team's record. I'm not talking about rosters or turnover or new recruits or position battles, any of that kind of stuff. This is purely an early look at the schedule. We're going to take a look at the 2020 schedule and briefly the 2019 schedule as a reference point. So is the 2020 schedule harder? Is it easier? What does the non-con look like in 2020 as opposed to 2019? What about road games? Things like that. That's all this is. We'll do another series of previews later in the year when we get closer to the summertime where we start looking at maybe some predictions. Right now, just taking a look at the schedule though. All right, let's get started. All right, South Carolina Gamecocks. Now, like I mentioned, we're going to put 2019 up here real quick, just briefly, so we have a reference point of what to go off of when we start to look at the 2020 schedule. I'll run through this one real quick, but they went 4-8, of course, in 2019, 3-5 in the SEC, and that was Will Muschamp's fourth year in Columbia. Yeah, he's won. He came there in 2016. He's won 6 games, 8 games, 6 games, 4 games. Those are regular season win totals because we're looking at just regular season schedules here. He was at Florida prior to that from 2011 to 2014. Didn't do very well there either. Overall record as a head coach, both Florida and South Carolina, he's 54-46 and 2-3 in bowl games. 2019, he started things off with a non-con loss in a neutral site game to North Carolina, losing 24-20. Kind of a surprise. Most people had South Carolina pegged to win that game, even though they you looked at South Carolina's schedule last year and you knew it was going to be a tough road to hoe in terms of making a bowl game. But most people had you picked to win that game. You lose it right off the bat, 24-20. Rebound the next week against Charleston Southern. So start off with 2 non-con games, 1-1. Then you hosted Alabama. You lose there, 47-23. Lost on the road at Mizzou, 34-14. Beat Kentucky at home, 24-7. Probably one of your better games, to be honest. And you had a bye week. You won the following week on the road at UGA. Now, that was your biggest win. I don't necessarily think that was your best game, though. I'm a Georgia fan, and so it doesn't really matter what I say about this game. It's just going to be excuses from a crybaby Georgia fan. I get that, but Georgia played absolutely terrible in that game. South Carolina didn't play much better, especially offensively. South Carolina was terrible offensively in that game. Now, clearly Georgia was too. Georgia had 4 turnovers in that game, all by Jake Fromm. He threw a pick 6. He had a fumble. He had 2 more interceptions on top of the pick 6. But South Carolina's offense only scored 1 offensive touchdown in that game and still won. Credit to their defense, I guess. But you won that game in overtime, 20-17. You lose the following week to Florida. Then you lost on the road to Tennessee in what was probably your worst game of the year. They blew you out. Was it 41-21, something like that? Come back home. You beat a bad Vandy team, 24-7. Then you lost to App State. I mean, App State was a good team last year, but they're a group of 5 team. You can't be losing to those. You did. Then you lost on the road to Texas A&M. You've yet to beat Texas A&M. That's sort of a problem. Texas A&M has not been a very good team. I know they're in the SEC West, and that's a difficult division, but they haven't been a very good team since entering the SEC 8-9 years ago now, whatever it was. That's your yearly game. You play them every year. That's your cross-divisional game that you play every year, and you've yet to beat them. So they've beat you, whatever it is, 8-9 years in a row now since joining the SEC. And you had a bye week before your annual beating to in-state rival Clemson. They beat you 38-3 this past season. So you went 1-3 in the non-con, and that was really the issue. Most of the SEC games you lost, people were not that surprised by it. In fact, you even won an SEC game that literally no one thought you would win, that Georgia game. But you lost to Tennessee, you lost to Florida, you lost to Alabama, you lost to Texas A&M. most people saw those things coming. So, all right, that's it for 2019. Now we'll look at 2020. You can come on out here now, 2020. Thank you. Yeah. Now, in my opinion, if South Carolina wants to get to a bowl game this year, it's the non-con record that they've got to look to improve. They were 3-5 in the conference last year, and they're probably looking at a similar result in the conference this year, in my opinion. They're going to have to make up some wins in the non-con, I think, if they want to go bowling, and I'll sort of explain why as we go through the schedule. But you start out with Coastal Carolina. Last year, you started out with North Carolina. You lost to North Carolina. You should beat Coastal Carolina. You have to beat Coastal Carolina. In fact, you have to start 2-0 if you want to make a bowl game. But you start out with Coastal Carolina and East Carolina. You got to beat both of those teams. You just have to, all right? Then you host Mizzou. That's sort of a 50-50 game to me. I don't really know what to make of Mizzou this year. They were a one-year sort of project with Kelly Bryant. Last year didn't go very well. He's gone now. What are they going to do there? I think that's an interesting game. I think it is a benefit that you get them at home. Williams-Brice can be a tough place to play at times. If you start 3-0, you're probably going bowling. Then you have 2 back-to-back road games within the SEC, at Kentucky and at Florida. If you can somehow win at Kentucky, I'll tell you this. You got to beat either Mizzou or Kentucky. But anyway, at Kentucky, at Florida, then you come back home, play an improving Tennessee team that absolutely destroyed you last year, and then you have your bye week. Only one of those this year. After having 2 the previous year, it was just sort of the way the schedule fell last year for everybody had 2 last year, back to 1 this year. Back half of your schedule, home against Texas A&M. Can you get your first win over them? On the road at Vandy, probably the worst team in the SEC in 2020. You host Georgia. Now, I talked about how you sort of need to flip the non-con. You were 1-3 in the non-con last year. You need to flip that in 2020. Instead of 1-3, you need to be 3-1. No one's going to pick you to beat Georgia. Now, I know you beat them last year, and so clearly you're going to say that, so we could beat them again. Yeah, you could do anything. But the odds are not in your favor there. So that's one game you won last year that you're probably going to lose in 2020. So you're looking to make that up, like I mentioned, with some non-con wins and whatever else. On the road at LSU. So you don't have to play Alabama this year. Great. Instead, you play at LSU. That's not much of an improvement. Alabama at home versus LSU on the road, that's pretty much a wash. Then you host Wofford, another must-win game if you're looking to make a bowl game. And then you finish things up on the road at Clemson. Pretty much an automatic L, right? So that's it for 2020. So let's look at this non-con here, because you were 1-3 in the non-con last year. You played UNC and Clemson, 2 Power 5 teams. You went 0-2. Then you played Charleston Southern and App State, 2 lower classification teams, and you went 1-1. So overall there, right, 0-2 against Carolina and Clemson, 1-1 against the other 2, 1-3 overall in the non-con. This year, Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, and Wofford, you got to go 3-0 there. You got to win all 3 of those games. You're probably going to lose to Clemson again, most likely again. This isn't a prediction video, but let's be real. If there's anybody in the comments section who's not a South Carolina fan that is willing to pick South Carolina to win that game right now, let me know. I'd be interested to know what you're smoking. Point is, you'd be a huge underdog there. You got to win Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, and Wofford. You win those 3, then you got to find 3 more wins somewhere to at least get bowl eligible. And I'm saying, our goals are higher than winning 6 games. Well, in the last 4 years, regular season, 6, 8, 6, and 4. So 6 wins ain't that bad. It's about the average, to be honest, okay? In fact, it is the average. So where can you make up 3 more wins there? Home against Mizzou, that's one you could win. At Kentucky, that's one you could win. At Vandy, that's one you could win. I guess you got to win all 3 of those. My point is, for South Carolina, I've heard some people say, their schedule is much easier this year. They don't have to play Alabama. That's true, but you still have to play, you have to play at LSU, and you didn't have to play them last year. The only advantage I really see is that the non-con is a game easier this year than it was last year. You played North Carolina and Clemson last year, 2 Power 5 teams. This year in the non-con, you only played a 1 Power 5 team. So you're probably gonna make up 2 wins in the non-con, would be my guess. But like I said, you beat Georgia last year. It's not likely you beat them this year, so you got to make that up somewhere now on the other end. We'll see. I think it's going to be another difficult year for South Carolina. It's a tough schedule at LSU, at Clemson, at Florida. Jesus, those are 3 top 10 teams you play on the road. Then you host Georgia, another top 10 team. So 4 top 10 teams on your schedule here. Tennessee, borderline top 25. Texas A&M, who knows? Kentucky, Mizzou, Vandy, you got to find a way to win those. And then the non-con, you need to go 3-1. All right, that's it. An early look at the 2020 South Carolina Gamecock football schedule. Let me know down here. What's the best case scenario here? I don't know. Let me know. I'll like I said, I'll do some prediction videos later on when it gets a little, maybe after the spring games or something. But another difficult schedule, I think, for South Carolina here. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a good morning. If you're wondering why I'm not mad or yelling or screaming or whatever, I did plenty of that during the live stream. But the thing is, I knew midway through the second quarter it was going to take a miracle for Georgia to win this game. So I've had about 3 hours to sort of prepare myself for this loss. So nope, there won't be any broken TVs or anything like that today. But this Georgia offense, if it doesn't get its head out of the sand, this will not be the only loss we have in the regular season this year. I can promise you that. To anybody in the comment section that's going to say, well, Georgia always loses a game in the regular season, and that kind of wakes them up.